Outro vídeo para ti hoy. Este es Aaron. How to install ffmpeg on Centos 7 web server. And I think these instructions should also be productive for just Centos 7, even if it's a desktop computer. But I am going to demonstrate this on Centos 7 server. Number one, you're going to need root credentials, so you will want to either log in to your root account with SU, or you can also, with your normal account that does not have root privileges, you can use sudo and then space and then the commands, but I'm not going to use sudo. Alright, first thing you want to do is you want to enable a repository that depends on enterprise Linux repository. So, come on. Anyways, so what you're going to type in is, oh my god, this web browser is a disaster. So you're going to install extra packages for enterprise Linux. You're going to enable that repository so that you can install Centos, excuse me, ffmpeg on Centos 7 server command line using yum. Using that tool yum to install. So that way you do not have to make and then build and then, no, you are not installing ffmpeg from source, which I do not like, installing software from source. I've never liked it, and I never will, I don't think. Okay, so quickly. So this is the first command. Yum space install space epel space, dash release. And then I'm just going to copy and paste it. Oh, my bad. Alright. Okay. This might take a little while because... Anyways, let's load up the next command. Now, then, after that, you're going to enable the RPM Fusion repository, but you must install the repository. And I'm gonna, let's see, copy that section of that command. I think it copied it all. No, it did not. Oh, come on. This Brave publisher's Brave web browser is turning into a dumpster fire. Did you know that Brave web browser, a lot of websites don't work with it correctly? Yeah, see, it's still, I don't know what it is, but using yum on my server isn't the greatest. Now, it has pretty good bandwidth, but I don't know, man. Okay, come on. Anything I can go over while I'm waiting? Okay, let's see. So then, that'll be the second step. You're going to have to enable RPM Fusion. Then you're going to have to, then you install ffmpeg. So it's basically just 3 commands. The number 3 commands to install the enterprise repository, then install the RPM, and then just install. Okay, nothing to do, already installed latest version. Well, alright. Now here's the second command. Now, oops. Well, it doesn't matter. What is this message here? Let's remove the sudo. Alright, quickly. Yum space local install space dash no gpg check space, and then the uniform resource locator on screen. Bam, hit enter. Examining does not update installed package. Okay. Now, I don't think this will work, but we'll try it anyways. Yum space install space ffmpeg space ffmpeg dash devel for development. And let's see. Okay, it says, whoa, there's a lot of dependencies. Alright, I'm not going to go over each dependency. You should be able to install it as long as you do not receive any errors. So that you have to install and enable those previous repositories. Now, again, this is so you do not have to install ffmpeg from source, which would require make and build if you know how to perform those. I know how to. I'll be blunt. I hate it because my experiences using Linux for decades now is that I run into way more problems when I install from source. You can get scripts or you can script it yourself, but with my experiences, there is no guarantees. I prefer to use Yum on Debian derivation Linux distributions on the Red Hat Linux like SUSE and Fedora, etc. I would prefer to use apt-get. And it's much easier, less problems with my experiences. Alright, so there's a lot of package dependencies. It's going to install these two packages here, which is ffmpeg and then ffmpeg-del. That is required from, and you notice the repository. I'll give you a warning about that. You may want to first verify whether or not a repository is legitimate. Most of them are. I have a lot of experience with Linux, and I have used RPM Fusion before, but there were a couple of repositories that weren't as popular. I'm looking outside the window, and the sunlight is out, and so I'm kind of distracting myself. Alright. You just may want, if you're a beginner, you may want to just double check that the repository that you're about to install and use is legitimate, or read some reviews. RPM Fusion, I really haven't had Linux is not perfect. It is by no means perfect. Any of these repositories, you could have problems. But most of the repositories that I've ran across that are pretty well known, I've never really had a whole lot of problems. Installing from source, that's a different story, as I'm at the 8-minute mark. Okay, so and then you want to check the version, 3.4.9, that's pretty current. And then now look at all these other dependencies that you have to install in order to use ffmpeg. And which really, there's not much data here. So it's not going to take up a lot of disk space. These other dependencies. And so that's a good thing. Alright, so total download size 6.1 megabytes, install size 25 megabytes. And then you would answer Y, D, or N. Yes. And then Y for yes, N for no, and D, I'm not sure what the fuck D is. I've never used D. D, what would that be for? I'm not sure. Who cares? Install 2 packages plus 15 dependent packages. Okay, so let's click yes. This shouldn't take that long because actually on my server the downloads are pretty quick. I don't know why at the initial, whenever I update using Yum or I install packages, the initial time it takes to go out and look for the actual software on a repository, it's kind of slow. I don't know why that is. Anyways, okay, I'm done. That's it. See? No errors. Now, as you can see on screen, you're going to see these messages. These are all the packages that it downloaded. It didn't take that long at all. Just a few seconds for all of them. And then running transaction check, running transaction test succeeded, and then running transaction, installing each package, including dependencies, verifying, and then a cleanup. Installed the first 2 packages, and then the dependent packages in order to use ffmpeg. and complete. So as long as you see complete, you're good to go, and it should take you back to the command prompt. If you run into any errors, I really can't help you right now, because with Linux, or well, basically any computer operating system, it depends on the error code. What you could do is look for, number one, look for the actual error. It may be one package that there's a problem with. You know what I'm saying? And then you would perform an internet search with that error message. My experiences with Linux is when I use apt-get and/or yum to install software, much less problems. And I prefer command line. When I start using the graphical user interface, which basically the graphical user interface uses the commands that you would type in a command prompt, but I don't like it. They're bloated sometimes, and it's just, to me, not necessary. And then when it comes to installing from source, it can turn into a disaster. And then another caveat, I mean, it's up to you, you know what I'm saying. So the reason why I had to enable those repositories is because Centos operating system is not really bleeding edge. It's a more, how shall I describe it? This video is already over. I already showed you how to install it, and you probably already left already, which I don't give a fuck. Alright, this is just some overtime. Centos is not a bleeding edge Debian derivation Linux distribution. Or no, wait a minute, it's Red Hat. My bad. I use both. I use MX Linux, which is Debian derivation, which uses apt-get. My Centos server is actually Red Hat Linux based, and it uses yum. It's not bleeding edge. Updates can take a while to show up. Software, it's a Linux operating system that is more reliable from my experiences. Apt-get, yum, less problems installing, but if you have to, if you could, you know, certainly try to install it from source, but I'm just warning you, it's a different process. And sometimes when I've installed software by source, you have to reverse the process, and if you're not comfortable, if you don't have that much experience, or you just do not like it, well, you literally have to you have to reverse it. You have to remove basically all the packages one by one, or you have to script it, or you have to find a script. Whereas when you use yum or apt-get, it's pretty self-explanatory, although they are not perfect. So it's already installed. Now what I can do is, I'm not going to show you how to use it. Now ffmpeg is basically a multimedia tool that you can use for all kinds of purposes. ffmpeg is a free and open source software project consisting of a suite of libraries and programs for handling video, audio, and other multimedia files and streams. At its core is the command line ffmpeg tool itself, designed for processing of video and audio files. I think, I could be wrong, but I think OBS Studio uses it. Even commercial software, they do use ffmpeg. ffmpeg, you can record videos with it, you can screen capture, you can capture your desktop, you can even use it to live stream. You can also use it to stream video, you can use it to stream audio. If you know how to use ffmpeg, you don't fucking need to buy any software. You don't even need to download OBS Studio, or you don't even need to, you know what I'm saying? If you know how to use it. I don't know if there's a GUI version of it. I'm not sure. There might be. But the command line, if you know how to use command line, and then you use tools like ffmpeg, wow, you can learn how to, you know, perform tasks that you would have to use other software. Don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing OBS Studio. I actually use OBS Studio, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, I digress. So that is what ffmpeg is. I'm not going to discuss it any further. This video is already too long. I just want to show you that another thing you can do is, if you need to know, you can find out what the version is, and then so you're going to type in ffmpeg-version, which it's already on screen because I already showed you what version was installed. But ffmpeg and then -version. and then it'll tell you. And these are, oh, yeah, right here is the top. ffmpeg version 3.4.9. It is copyrighted. However, it is open source. So, well, I might have been wrong. I'm not sure. I don't give a fuck about copyright bit. I think that some commercial software uses ffmpeg. They may have to get a license, or they may have to include that it is, well, whatever. But I thought OBS Studio used it, but I could certainly be wrong. Anyways, I digress. Now that's the version, and then now it even tells you the versions of these other dependencies, these other libraries. So you've got AV, utility, a codec, a format, these and then their versions, just in case maybe you need to know, or maybe you need to have the exact version of these other dependencies or these other tools, or maybe troubleshooting. But it is installed. Now another command that you could type, and then I'm going to run. Now you type in where is ffmpeg, and it should tell you the directory. /user bin ffmpeg. That's the executable. That's the actual program. Now, since it's installed using Yum, you should not need to use the entire path, which I'm not going to discuss how to use ffmpeg. I mean, there's so many different uses, but you would type in ffmpeg space and then whatever the variables are, and it should work. You should not have to use the direct path, because you know what I'm saying. It's under the user include ffmpeg, and then also there's a directory user share ffmpeg, and there's a manual. So you could type in man ffmpeg. If you do not know how to use it, there's a website. There's an official website. Also, you could use the man page, which stands for manual. Man, and then space ffmpeg, and it's text. This is old school, but yes, I still use manual. And see how long it is? You see how detailed description, input file, demuxer. Oh, you can mux, you can demux, you can convert. You could use it as a file converter. You could convert. I think ffmpeg, you could take a video file and take out the audio. You could extrapolate the audio and create a podcast. And I'm not making that up. There's all kinds of different uses, man. You can use it to stream video and audio. And so but anyways, that is how to, I would say, quickly install ffmpeg on Centos 7 server. If you have desktop version of Centos 7, I think you could probably use the same instructions. Adios!